Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ebun and it's your first time of seeing my beautiful face. I do videos about faith, food and fun, and today I'm going to be talking about my faith journey on getting my first job in England, or my first paid job in England. And I am doing this video so I encourage somebody out there, and I join my faith with your faith, and I pray that the job that you are looking for, whenever you watch this video, either today or in a year's time or in 10 years time, or whenever, the Lord will grant you the grace to stay in your journey and give you a job that will blow your mind, because that's what God did for me. Anyway, so let me give a bit of background information. I went to Covenant University and I graduated in 2013 with a 2-1 in finance, banking and finance. Then I moved to England in 2015 and I went to the University of Exeter to do an MSc in finance and investment. And I also graduated with a 2-1 or a merit. So my graduation was in June 2016, if I can remember exactly. And I can remember feeling like, oh, I was going to get a job easily. Now, I was applying before then, but every time I applied, I kept on getting unfortunately. I didn't have a lot of work experience. I only had my NYC 1 year as a teacher experience and a 1-month internship I did at BDO, which is an accounting practice firm in Nigeria and also a worldwide firm. So I felt like at least I should be able to get a graduate job. So I started applying for graduate jobs, both in practice, in other companies. So practice is like Big Fours, Big Tens, audit firms, and also in like other companies. So companies that were like Shell, GlaxoSmithKline, so companies that were prestigious, because I was like, I want to earn a lot of money. And I felt like this was the best shots I had in looking for a job. So I was applying from June, moved from Exeter to London in August. And as at this point, all my emails that I was getting, all the replies I was getting from companies was unfortunately, we have not been able, unfortunately, you have not met. What I mean like I would just apply with my CV. They have not called me for second, like, assessment center or anything, nothing like that. It was just unfortunately, and I was beginning to wonder that what is wrong with me. So moving to London in August, I was living with my dad's cousin, and I was very eager to get a job because I didn't want to live with her indefinitely, number one. And number two, I wanted to earn money for myself. My parents were still trying to support me in this stage of my life. I didn't have a job, and please, I needed money. So who again will I go and meet if not my father and my mother? But then let me also say that the Nigerian exchange rate was not smiling, and I was also trying to be a considerate child when asking for things. So I started researching on how to get a job in England, and I came across something called the job center. Now, let me not even put a bit of caveat. One of the reasons I'm shooting this video was that recently I was clearing up, not recently, about 2 or 3 days ago, I was clearing up my house and I came across my first job center letter. And I put a post on my WhatsApp status, and then I was like, maybe I should shoot a video about this. And people were like, Ebun, tell us what happened. And I was like, it's just going to encourage somebody. And I said, I put my faith with your faith, and I know that the Lord is going to surprise you. So I went to the job center and I said, oh, I'm looking for a job. And they were like, oh, first of all, you need to register or something. So I registered, and they gave me an appointment to see a lady. Apparently, her name was Lisa. I cannot even remember, but I have the letter here. So on a particular day, the appointment was on the 13th of October. If I got the details are here. On the 13th of October, no, even before the 13th of October, no. Sorry, when I was in London, I had to see this lady, and they booked me for an appointment. But then one thing led to another. I had to move out of London from my auntie's house, or my dad's cousin's house, and I had to move to Milton Keynes. So my appointment was moved to the Milton Keynes office. Throughout this time, please remember that I have been applying aggressively for jobs, and I kept on getting unfortunately. So I spoke to this lady Lisa, and when I spoke to her, I was given this impression that you get a job easily, you are qualified, you are experienced, that most people that come to the job centers don't have your qualification. And I was like, okay, this lady really sounded positive. And she told me that they had like a website, like a job center website, which gathered jobs from so many platforms. And I should be applying from there. My dear, I was applying. And as I was applying, nothing was happening. And I applied, I think, either through that job center or through the numerous job center. In fact, I think I put a list of all the job sites I was signed up to, or most of them. And I finally got an interview with YMCA in North London. God, I was excited. So I went to North London for my interview. My interview went well. And then I was hoping that they were going to give me the job. That's how they called me and told me that they were not going to offer me the job. In fact, I felt so heartbroken. I remember telling my auntie then, who I live with in MK, that what kind of nonsense is this? Like, I've already transported myself to London to go and do interview. Now, I've wasted that money. Remember, I was not in any income. I was just very sad and very miserable. But thank God I had friends that were supporting me. Anyways, North London called me back. So the YMCA North London office called me back and said, oh, they are willing to give me the job as a volunteer. So meaning that they were not going to pay me, but they will cover my cost of transport and my cost of a meal a day, so like lunch. At this point, I was desperate to look for a job, and I felt like what I was lacking was UK experience. So I was like, okay, I will take the offer. So I used to go to work 3 days a week. I volunteered 3 days a week. I was not going to give anybody more than that time because I needed to also still apply for jobs that were going to pay me. I remember my first day in the office, it went well. But then I was looking for who they recruited for the role that they did not give me. And apparently they did not recruit anybody. So I did free labor for about 5 months. I think from about October till February. Anyway, during this time, I was still aggressively applying for jobs, and it was not working out. So remember I lived with my auntie. So I told her, and she then gave me a contracting. So in England that time, there were a lot of contractors in the banking field because of something called PPI. So she gave me a contact, and I messaged them, sent them my CV. And I didn't hear back from them in December that year. And I just felt like it was all those cases of unfortunately. Then I can remember my birthday in January of 2017. I was angry. I remember the morning of my birthday, I remember praying to God, and I'm like, God, I am so fed up. I'm so frustrated. I can't take this. I cannot. I am just too angry. Like, I'm like, God, this was not the plan. Like, what do you want me to do? Am I going to return back to Nigeria now? No job, no nothing. Like, after my parents have spent a lot of money, I was frustrated. In fact, I remember that prayer was not a prayer of anything that had to do with gratitude to God. No, I was not grateful for anything. And one of the things I want to say is that no matter the season that you are in, like, when I look back, I'm like, Ebon, thank God God loves you. But then I was able to share my burden with God. Like, I'm not like I was a perfect child. And I know like I shared my body in a perfect way. There was a better way to do it. But like I just feel like sometimes I feel like it was my annoyance with God that made God answer me. And I don't think that is what happened now that I know better. But like I just had to, I was just so upset. Anyway, my auntie hears my prayer from her room. And then she takes me out for lunch for my birthday. And then when she comes back, she's like, Ebon, now this is why I said that the Lord really loves me. My auntie that has forgotten about this person that this firm that she links me up to. She asked me, Ebon, did you hear from these people? And I said, no, they didn't get back to me. And then she said, you did not message them again. And I said, auntie, all the people I'm applying to that I've been reaching out to, that have not been messaging me. And then she was like, Ebu, message them. So I messaged this, I messaged the company or the firm. And when I messaged the firm on Monday morning, because I think my birthday was a Sunday that year, if I can remember. On Monday morning, this guy calls me. I'm trying to remember his name. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen. He calls me and he's like, that he know either he can, like, not like he can remember my name, but he's like, maybe because my name is not an English name, he's like, that he's very sure that he put my name on the people that should have started work in January. I said, pardon? Sorry, sir. What English did you just release from your mouth? And he's like, okay, that he's very sure there was a mistake and they missed my name. My first prayer for you is that they will not miss you when they need to see you. I was like, oh my God. And I thank God for my auntie. And I thank God for using her to advise me. And I thank God for even still making a way, even when people had already started work. So luckily for me, they had another batch that was starting in February the next month. So my birthday is in January. In February, February, I think it was going to start like first or second week of February. So I was so excited. They gave me my letter. They said I was going to start. They gave me, the salary was catching. I'm not even going to lie. For someone that don't have job, any salary you have offered me will be catching. And then I resigned from my YMCA volunteer job. I think I resigned in January or first week of February. That's how. The work I was meant to start in February, they now said they were pushing the work. Now I've resigned from work. I didn't want it to be a gap in my CV. And I was like, hey, Father in heaven, help me. Now let me say that after I had screamed at God in January for my birthday for a job, and he had given me a job, I was grateful and I appreciated it. I was very much happy with the job, so I was not really talking to him about a job or anything. But when they told me that they were moving the job and they were not sure when they were going to start, who else will you run to except the Father that you know that can answer all your needs according to his riches in glory? So I went to God. I was like, God, this cannot happen. No, I've resigned. What will I tell them? And then luckily for me and by the grace of God, the role started about maybe like the last week of Feb. And the role was in London. It was a night shift job. Things that I thought I would never do. And then I would work 3 days a week night shift. So every evening I would come to London. I would work. And then in the morning I would go back home to be able to kids. I did that for about 2-3 months. And then I moved to London. While doing this, I came across PwC's application. Now, I applied to PwC when I was in Nigeria, and I did not even pass the assessment center. So when I moved to Exeter, or when I came for my master's, I started the application, but I had so much fear that was not good enough. See, what the enemy uses to steal our joy sometimes is just little subtle things. And I'm not feeling like I was not good enough for a PwC, so I never finished the application. But this time, I was like, no, I was going to apply. And the Lord was really on my side. So I applied to PwC for their graduate training entry for September 2017. When I applied, I did the first, like when you apply, they will send you assessment center. I'm going to see whether I can find all these results. My own assessment center results was everything you need to improve, you need to improve. Hey, I was like, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Other people I knew that did not even proceed from the assessment center to the next stage, which is the telephone interview, all had satisfactory good. Me, my own was, I need to improve. I was like, they can't give me job. Like, I'd already give, in fact, I feel like my PwC journey was a journey of no faith to faith. So I had no faith that I was going to be called for the telephone interview. But guess what? I was called for the telephone interview. And then I got called for the telephone interview. And as God will have it there, God really mapped out my PwC job. If you don't know, I did get the job, but let me continue. And I remember while I was applying for my PwC job, I applied for a Deloitte's job in Milton Keynes. So I went for the interview maybe a week before my PwC job. And when I went for the job, I remember being in the reception before I went in for the interview. And I was wondering that I'm downstairs. If people that want to interview me are looking at me, they just look at me sitting down, not doing anything. So I picked up the Financial Times on the table. Now, I was not really a newspaper reader, and I'm not really a news reader per se. So I picked up the Financial Times, and I was just looking at it. And then they had this small snippet talking about a Dubai oil thing. I can't really remember the details, and how PwC was helping them to navigate like the planning and the something and the whole strategy, whatever, for the Dubai government or Dubai oil, whatever. And I was just like, okay. But like at this point, remember I said that I did not think I was going to be called for telephone interviews. So I was not reading it because of PwC. I was reading it because I did not want them to see like somebody came for interview, there's newspaper in front of her, and she's just staring into the bliss of the place. Now, coincidentally, my telephone interview, they said, oh, this was the question they asked me. They said, oh, please, can you tell us about something that's happening in the world that has financial impact in either a country, a continent, a business that is influential in the world, that has nothing to do with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was the president. That was majorly what most people talk about, or political or whatever. And literally, that whole thing I read on Financial Times downloaded in my brain, and I told this person on the phone. This person was in so much shock. The person asked me that, was I working in PwC Dubai? When he said, I said, no, that I read this in Financial Times. I feel like that gave me an uplifting edge. Now, let me say that I got the Deloitte's job that I went for, and I did not take it. And honestly, I don't know why I didn't take it. I think maybe the salary was not a lot. I don't know. I really don't know why I didn't take it. I think maybe the salary was not as much as what I was currently earning. And I just did not feel that that was the job for me. So let me say, please, when you are doing this, let the Holy Spirit convict you, because it's so needed. Anyway, I remember them, then the PwC contact sending me an email saying, oh, my telephone interview went really, really well. I can't even remember exactly where I was standing when I did that interview. And then they were like, we are proceeding you to the assessment center, where that was the next step. Now, fear gripped me, because, now let me tell you, I say that this story is a story from fear to faith, so lack of faith to faith. Fear gripped me because I had gotten to so many assessment centers in times past, and I always did not get the job. I always told outside the assessment center I was not good enough. And then that also gripped me. But I was like, okay, no problem. So I had to look for a way to do my assessment center. I can remember in that moment, the only slot that was available was London. And I kept on having this feeling. So I booked the London slot. But I kept on having this feeling that London was going to be too competitive. Or London was not where I was going to get my job because of the competitive nature of London. And I was like, Ebon, should you change? Should you change? Should you change? And I kept on feeling like there was no other slot to change to. So what was I going to do? So I just held this in my mind that, God, please make a way for me. Coincidentally, I opened the PwC portal because you could switch slots. And then I saw that the slot in Bristol opened up, or Bristol. And I changed it with immediate effect. At this point, I didn't even know whether they were going to pay for my transport to Bristol or my hotel. Anyway, PwC covered all that cost. And then I moved my assessment center to the Bristol office. I go to the Bristol office, very beautiful, I must say. And then I do the assessment center. During this assessment center, I can remember one of the parts of the assessment center is that they will give you a case, you read the case, and then while one of the people that will mark, the invigilators, I don't know, whatever you call them, in the room, who is also a staff of PwC, was in the room, you would argue and discuss and present your case and kind of do like a teamwork exercise. I can remember that every time I would want to talk, there was this girl that would shut me up. She would interject. She would cut me off. I barely said anything. There was also a part of the assessment center where you need to review some things and do some calculations and write a report. I did that. I remember leaving the assessment center and not feeling, I was like, God, the same thing that always happens to me has happened to me again. So normally they told us that they would get back to us in like a week or two. It was more than a week or two. They had not gotten back to me. And I was like, oh no, not a week or two, a few days really. And it was more than a week. They had not gotten back to me. I think almost entering the second week. And I was like, ah, God, what is this? That's how I got a call in my London apartment. I was in the kitchen when I received that call, I think. Yeah, I was in the kitchen. And then the guy that spoke to me was like, oh, hello, is this Eboluwa? He really did butcher my name, which is very common. And then I was like, yes. And he was like, oh, they just want to tell me that my assessment center was lovely. That the person who was the invigilator, like the leader of the person that was marking us or giving us scoring, was like, oh my god, that I was very vocal, very this. I remember asking the guy that, sorry, excuse me, that please, are you sure that it's Eboluwa that you were meant to call? He said, yes, my name not Eboluwa. And that time we all had like numbers when you, if I can remember. I think so. Hisha was like, oh, I was like, the man was like, okay, that they're going to invite me for an interview with a director, a partner in the office I applied to. So I applied to the Milton Keynes office because that was where I was living at that point in time. No, that now I'd moved to London. And I was like, okay, so they booked a date. And honestly, at this point, I was like, no, God is on my side. I cannot fail this job. And I entered the room. So on the day of my assessment center, I was also working that evening. So I go for my final interview with my PwC director. So he was a director at that point in time. I will not say his name, but his initials are JG. And I can remember entering the room and I sit down. I say hi. He says, oh, how am I? He looks at my CV and he says, oh, you schooled in Exeter. I lived in Exeter. And let's say this interview was an hour. For the first 30 to 45 minutes, we spoke about Exeter, his parents, their marriage, things I did in Exeter, because Exeter is generally a very boring city. Like, how did I have fun in Exeter? And I was telling him, oh, that I wrote a book because I was going through emotional trauma. And he was like, oh my God, are you serious? And he then asked me some questions about, of course, my course in Exeter and all of that. And we finished the interview. The interview was very clean and simple. Nothing too complicated. But I can remember something that happened. After the interview, of course, I have to leave the room. And I'm about to leave the room. We already say bye. And just as I'm about to get out of the door, he asks me, says, oh, do you think you have gotten the job? And I turned back and I said, yes. And I had so much confidence. And he asked me why. I said, because you told me that you want to read my book. And the only way you're going to read my book is when I come back and start in September, then I can give you a copy. And he had this smile on his face. And I can remember entering the elevator feeling like I have got this. But you know that the devil does not like us children of God. And normally they told us that they will get back to us in a few days. My dear, this was like 2 weeks after. They had not gotten back to me. And then one day, still in my kitchen. You can see that this is why you should spend time in your kitchen. No, not really. While in my kitchen, PwC calls me and offers me my job. Now, I also want to say that when I graduated from Covenant, my dream job was to work in PwC. And after failing my first assessment center in Nigeria, and feeling like I was not worth a PwC job, the Lord turned around my story. Not even, I always tell people, sorry, that when I tell them my experience with my PwC job, I can for a fact say that it was a mistake. Like, God's hand was what always led me from one state to the other. Was it the stage from you need to improve to the telephone interview where people were wonderful and they were not even getting called? Or was it from the stage of me seeing a script, literally a script of what I was going to say in my telephone interview? Or was it me not talking in an assessment center and the invigilators writing my name as person that talked and drove the team to a place of excellent conclusion? Or was it to having a director who was from the city I schooled in? Was it all of that? And I don't say that these people were the ones that gave me my job. I say it was God that mapped out my PwC career. I worked in PwC for a number of years and I've left PwC. But that was how God surprised me with a beautiful job. Now let me say that PwC offered me a salary that was about 6 to 8K, if I can remember, less than what I was currently earning. But I still took the job. Because money was not even the factor then, to be honest. I remember I said I rejected my Deloitte job that I got because of money. It was just so evident that God had a hand in the job. And the beautiful place I am in my life today, I tie it back to God giving me that job. So I just want to spend a minute to pray for you. I pray for all those who are seeking to get a job. May the Lord give you a job that will blow your mind out of the parks. May He map out a plan for you that when you tell your story, the only thing you can say is that the Lord was the one that helped me. Not man, but God. I pray that you will share your testimony with many others. And indeed, your testimony will lead people to Christ. Your testimony will make people hold on to their faith. I pray, oh Lord, that your testimony will give somebody the needed grace to hold on to God, to receive their own testimony the way I received mine. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you, and I wish you well in your future job that will be exceptional by God's grace. Have a lovely day. Don't forget to subscribe. See ya. Bye.